thank you so much for joining us for the Kalamazoo Area Police Agency's 2025 year-end report. We appreciate you taking the time to be here. Events like this matter because transparency, accountability, and open dialogue are essential to building trust between our communities and law enforcement. Before we begin, just a few quick notes. Tonight's program will run from 6 to 7:30, or time for meet and greet following. Restrooms are located directly across the hall. You can see the sign straight from here. And you may continue to submit questions using the QR code on the screen during the duration of tonight's event. Before we move forward, I'd like to set a few shared expectations. This is a space for honest questions and respectful dialogue. We recognize that public safety issues can be personal and emotional, and that's okay. We simply ask that questions remain focused and respectful so everyone has the opportunity to be heard and to respond. Tonight, participating agencies will share updates on performance indicators such as citizen complaints, hiring and retention, community outreach efforts, and criminal investigations and initiatives. This is an opportunity not just to listen, but to engage, to ask questions, seek clarity, and better understand how policing is evolving across our community. We'd like to thank our participating agencies for being here this evening. The Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety is with us, the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office, Michigan State Police, and Portage Department of Public Safety. We also extend our thanks to the Portage Senior Center for hosting us this evening. We are going to turn things over to Sheriff Rick Fuller with the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office. Please join me in welcoming him as he provides insight into the Sheriff's Office work in 2025, including staffing, operations, and community partnerships.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Can I say one thing? So this isn't a QR code for questions. Because it's a small group, just save those and we'll just go direct with you. This will give you access to everything we're presenting on tonight. So if you want to look at it or save it or anything, it's on there, but the questions we'll get after.
Thank you.
So.
Good?
Yep.
All right, so can we have our first slide up?
There you go. The far left one.
Far
left. Left. There.
Yep, you got it.
All the way to the top.
All right, well, we're finding that. I'll just real quick. So again, Sheriff Rick Fuller, thank you everybody for being here tonight. And we enjoy being able to come out to the community and share what's going on in our organizations throughout the year. So that's what we're doing here tonight. You know, at the Sheriff's Office, we want to make sure people understand that we're committed to several different things. Protecting our community while serving and making sure that people have answers to the questions that we often hear. So I've been very fortunate to be your sheriff going on 18 years and with the organization 38 and 40 in the business. The undersheriff, Michelle Greenland, really wanted to be here tonight, but she couldn't. So you don't get to meet her. But I'll go to the Corrections Division first. So when we talk about, go ahead to the second side of the slide, please. We're going to talk about the Corrections Division. In Kalamazoo County, there's one jail. And so throughout the entire community, if someone's arrested in Kalamazoo County, they come to the Sheriff's Office if they're going to go to jail. And in that jail, we want people to understand that it's 24/7. We have a staff of dedicated personnel there. We have 78 deputies in there, 10 sergeants, 3 command officers. Our command officer that's in charge of the jail for me is Captain Steve Beers, a longtime employee at the Sheriff's Office. We have Lieutenant Megan Malls and Administrative Lieutenant Mike Deason. Part of the programs that we run at the jail is our Ignite program, which is an opportunity for people who are incarcerated to go through an educational process with the goal that when they leave jail, they'll have more opportunities to do things outside of the jail, hopefully allowing them not to come back. It has a very high success rate. We work with ISK. We worked with several different organizations in our community. In fact, just this week we added 2 more programs. We have 13 enrollees in this next class that actually started today. Things I'd like you guys to know. We have a dedicated nursing staff at the Sheriff's Office and a dedicated ISK team. That's the Integrated Services of Kalamazoo, our community mental health. And without those team members, inside the jail would be much more difficult than it ever has been. When I started there in 1989, we had nothing compared to the mental health issues that we have today inside that facility, or the people who are suffering through either a substance use disorder or mental health, or a combination of both. In fact, 85% of our jail population is on medication. That's the most I've ever seen inside the organization, and that's why we take so much to have dedicated people. In the state of Michigan, if you are, actually throughout the country, if you are an inmate, it is the responsibility of that sheriff to make sure you're getting the medical care, either for your substance use disorder, your emergency medical care, or something that's an ongoing care that you had when you were outside the jail and you came in. We have to continue that. And that is all at the cost of the citizens. So every year, the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in taking care of the inmate population. Again, I talked about IGNITE a little bit. So IGNITE actually stands for, go ahead to the next slide, please. IGNITE actually stands for Inmate Growth Naturally, Intentionally Through Education. It's an innovative opportunity for us to work with the inmate population at the Sheriff's Office and provide all inmates, regardless of the length of stay, with access to programming that supports personal growth and successful reentry. And we see that this program has been reviewed by Yale and Brown University and the University of Michigan. And in their research, they found that there is a high number of people who stay out of jail, and that it's got a success rate that's in the 80% level. We have up here talking about some of the opportunities that we still have for people to come to work at the Sheriff's Office. So our staffing, right now, the jail staffing is down about 19%, and that includes people that were working as a clerk, as a deputy, or nursing staff, and that's something that we're constantly trying to change and get more people to come work for the Sheriff's Office to work in these conditions. But I can tell you, like I said, those conditions have changed significantly from when I started there back in 1989. Our average daily population at the Sheriff's Office jail, it fluctuates. And what we see in different months, of course. So October this last year was our highest average daily, and it was 397 inmates. We have a number of bookings every month that we'd like to present to people. When we talk about these things, we have people getting booked in and being released. Because remember, we're a jail, we're not a prison, and most people that come to jail are actually going to leave jail. So they're leaving the neighborhood and they're coming back to the neighborhood. And that's why that IGNITE program is so important for all of us. Each month is an average of 695 people coming into jail and about 707 leaving the jail. So we recognize that we are a constant flow in and out. If you look at the numbers of people coming and going every day, the receiving department of the Sheriff's Office is by far the busiest of that operation. On the road side, we are the law enforcement patrol for outside of areas that do not have their own police agency here in this county. So if you're an incorporated agency, you have your own police department, like a city, villages, some villages, actually no villages right now, and the townships have some police agencies. If they don't have their own police agency, you rely on the Sheriff's Office or the Michigan State Police, and Rusty will talk about that. Or one of our partners. I try and tell people, when 911 comes in, we send whoever's available and as quick as possible. That might be the Michigan State Police, it might be, could be the Augusta police car, and if they're close, or it could be Portage or the city of Kalamazoo, which we've utilized each other's services many times. 47,000 calls for service last year, handled by the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office. And we have contracts throughout the community. We have contracts, meaning leasing contracts with Oshtemo, Comstock, Texas, Pavilion Township. We have contracts with several schools. We have 5 deputies that work in the schools. And then we also have a deputy assigned to Galesburg, which has the Sheriff's Office as their police agency. Number one township that has the most calls for the sheriff's office to respond to is Oshtemo. And last year they had just about 18,000 calls between officers initiated and citizens calling the police. Our support division is a division run by a captain and has several administrators assisting them with many things, including our internal investigations on any complaints, as well as the staffing of all of the clerical and report taking, as well as our warrant division. Yep. Next one, please. So, Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office is the second sheriff's office in the state of Michigan to go through an accreditation process. A lot of police agencies have gone through accreditation. We have partners in this room that have gone through accreditation. We're the second sheriff's office. What we found with that is that we were able to make it clear that we have standards and guidelines that people have to work to make sure they're doing their job right. They're constantly reviewed, and we have to pass every 2 years this accreditation to make sure that we're still doing things right. We're currently on track to be the first sheriff's office in the state of Michigan for our jail to be accredited to the Michigan accreditation process that we were working on, and we hope to have that by the end of this next year. I know I gave you a lot of information, but it's also here, if you hit the QR code, you can download that information, is that correct? And then that way, if you have any questions later, please reach out to me. And I know my information as well as my email is on that right there. So thank you very much, everybody.
Up next, we have the next presentation will come from Michigan State Police. We are joined by First Lieutenant and Post Commander Scott Rusty who will share regional and statewide perspectives along with highlights from enforcement and community-focused initiatives in 2025.
Thank you. I'm Rusty. I'm the post commander at Paw Paw. This is Dale. He's the assistant post commander. As those of you that may or may not know, a lot of you have come before, we cover Van Buren and Kalamazoo counties. So about 50% of our resources are dedicated to Kalamazoo. That fluctuates from time to time, but usually it's right around that. Staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're lucky, actually, we have a very good partnership with the Sheriff's Department, because on days where we have like an incident going on in Van Buren, we're able to pull those resources and help out in Van Buren because they cover and vice versa if there's something going on. So that's kind of how that breaks down. So as far as transparency, when we're reporting on last year versus this year, as you can see, we went up about 1,400 complaints or so, a little under. So we took that many more this year. As far as persons contacts, that went up significantly. Now, some of this is just accounting because they're doing a better job carrying their persons investigated. What that means is, I'll explain each of these. So we break this down to show about the number of people we contacted last year through official means. This isn't where you talk to somebody at a gas station or whatever, but this would be an official contact of some kind. So you have traffic stops, persons arrested. These would be people you arrested. And then you have car assists. If you come across someone that has a flat tire or whatever. Person investigated would be where you stop a car, but there's also a second or third person in the car, and you have contact with them somehow. And then dispatch calls, we had 4,900, where you're dispatched. Now this might be, you may have more than one person you contact, but it's only counting as one. Some of those are if we have personnel. So, we had about 25,000 people we contacted in official capacity last year. If you can go down a little bit. So, this is really, the first part of this is all to talk about our use of force and citizen complaints and some of that stuff. So, out of the 25,000 by members in Paw Paw, we had 8,900 more than last year, which is a 36% increase. And again, some of that could be accounting because now we're kind of tracking it a little bit better, but that's a pretty real number. We had 10 citizen complaints in 2025, which is down 1 from 2024. So we had 10 this year versus 11 last year. So of all those contacts, 99.99% were positive. 0.004 is what resulted in the complaint. And I'll get in a minute to how those were resolved and what the outcomes were. We had 63 incidents this year, up from 45 in 2024, that showed some sort of force used. Now, some of that has to do with, we are also now calculating in our, we call them blue teams, so that anytime a trooper uses any sort of force, whether it be hands-on, handcuffing, all the way up to using a taser, we've now started capturing if we even display and point the taser at someone. Same with pointing and displaying a firearm, that's all calculated. So we had 63 incidents in all of 2025 where some sort of force was used. The highest level of force used during last year were 11 incidents where a taser had to be used, which is 0.049% of, again, if you see the highest force used. So 99.95% of all of our incidents were solved through verbal communication, no force needing to be used, much lesser forms of force. If you can go down a little bit. So as far, and then before you move on, in the QR code you'll have it. It has both Dale and I's information. You can call us anytime. You can also go to the Michigan Crime Dashboard right here on that QR, which is on there as well at any time, and you can pull up any of these stats that you want. Okay, we'll go down to total complaints. So last year we had 17 total complaints. Complaints coming in two ways against citizens, or I'm sorry, from citizens or administratively. So what that means is 2024 we had 17 complaints. 6 of those were administrative, meaning Lieutenant Hins and I are reviewing an incident, you know, on one of those blue teams. So a trooper uses force, or it's a traffic crash, or whatever it is, and we review it and we see a violation of policy. We file a complaint, and that's where those 6 came from last year. This year we had 11. 2025 total complaints 14 versus 17. So this year we had 4 administrative complaints, which shows, in my opinion, a good trend that our troopers are starting to, you know, we're not having to file complaints against them because we aren't seeing the policy violations. Now, when I say policy violations, I can get to some of those. It could be as simple as they weren't wearing their seatbelt, they were speeding, like we had one where he hit a deer, which we've all hit deer, but he was going 68 miles an hour and a 55 when he hit the deer. That's a policy violation, and we investigated it, and he was issued discipline on that. And then, so citizen complaints, we had 11 last year, 10 this year. Can you go up to the next thing? And I'll go over dispositions on those. So administrative, there's several areas of how they go. And this one is actually closed now. It was actually closed as of Monday as not sustained, or I'm sorry, exonerated. So administrative closure means usually those are, and it's on the next page if you have it open, it means we're not taking any action, because usually that means the trooper resigned, or you know, they were fired immediately. Usually it's they resigned and we're not going to do anything with it because they resigned in lieu of, like, for a policy violation. Exonerated are those where it never happened. Somebody files a complaint and says, hey, he choked me, and it's reviewed by professional standards, which investigates all of ours out of Lansing. So we had 2 of those this year, 3 actually, because that one's over here now, where they were exonerated. 7 are what's field referral that I'll come back to. Not sustained means they can't quite say this didn't happen, but they're saying it's high likelihood that this isn't a violation of anything that didn't happen. Sustained are those ones that, yes, the citizen complaint was legitimate, it happened, and they get disciplined, and we deal with it from that respect. And then the unfounded is, it's not even a legitimate case. It's like, no, this isn't even anything that we can find. So the field referrals are those ones that are minor. For instance, that one, the trooper speeding hits a deer. It all goes into blue team. It gets sent to professional standards. They send it back to us saying, hey, we agree that there is a policy violation. Handle it at the post through labor relations. So then we'll call Lansing Labor Relations, which is HR, and they'll say, that is typically a 1-year discipline letter if they have nothing else, and then we deal with it at the post level, versus these usually mean it can result in anything under time off work. So that's usually when we deal with those. So if you can go down a little bit. So as you can see, we're having a good trend. As far as the use of force, I went over that a little bit earlier, but this is what kind of force we're getting throughout the thing. Most people, and this is where you get into having to use taser or whatever, but they still, even with 43 people having active resistance or active aggression, they still only went to the taser that limited number of times because they're doing a good job of talking people down and waiting to use some sort of use of force. If you can go to the final pages thing. So overall conclusion as far as transparency, my troopers are doing a very, very good job of talking first before they're acting. They're also doing a good job of maintaining within policies and things like that. But most importantly, I hope what this shows you is if there is an issue, we have a robust policy and a robust process, just like everybody else in place, that if you call, it's no longer, because honestly, when I first came in, it was, somebody would call in a citizen complaint, and well, people would call in the desk and the sergeant would go, yeah, we're not dealing, that doesn't happen anymore. If you call, we take it seriously, we take that information, it gets investigated and entered, and if it happened, it gets dealt with. So, okay, so if we can go to the next thing. So now I want to hit on something that I'm really proud of. So this is kind of the transparency part of it. If you can go to this form over here. This is kind of our year-end review, and I'll do it quick. I won't go into everything. The next document altogether. Yep, it's not on there. And this is our transparency page if you need that. But our next thing is we always do that one right there. We always do a strategic plan at the post, like what do we want to accomplish for the year, and then we always go over what we accomplished for the year. So I'm just going to hit on a couple of things. Can you go down? First, we always want to focus on recruiting and retention. We made a goal to recruit 3 people for the 148th and 4 people for the 149th. Of the 7, so we did actually recruit, 5 graduated. So just because we recruit 7 doesn't mean they all graduate the recruit school. So we're constantly focused on recruiting and retention. If you know somebody, have them call me. Employee wellness, we'll skip over that, keep going. We basically focused on that. I will focus on this. At-fault crashes. This is an area that we are working hard at the post because we set a goal to go down from 2024 and we actually doubled. And these are simply those, it could be as simple as a crash, they backed into a pole or something, but it's all about when you have 1,000 things going on in your patrol car, the radio, the radar, all these things, they're getting distracted. So we've refocused the post for this year's strategic plan to try to cut that even further. It went up 100%, which is not good. That's not a good number. So that's one of our focuses for next year. All right, go down. We worked a lot with morale and togetherness. We did a lot of just things. Keep on going. I'll skip over these. Keep going, keep going, keep going. So one thing we're really proud of, and this obviously isn't all MSP or all pop-up posts, but one of our goals this year was impact seatbelts. And we did that through, we did quarterly initiatives, we did zone, we did a lot of our focus on OHSP because we wanted to bring down, because as you know, seatbelts use had gone down quite a bit. So we wanted to go up 1.1 in Kalamazoo, we wanted to go up 1.2 in Kalamazoo, and if you go down, we did a lot with our PIO, keep going, keep going. We actually hit that mark. Kalamazoo County is at 95.2, so obviously it wasn't, I can love to tell you, oh, Rusty solved it, but no, it's all of us working on that, but it was something we focused on this year, so we were pretty happy about that. All right, go on down. The one I really want to show you, one other thing we really focused on this year was overdoses and overdose deaths. We all know that's a huge problem, so we did a couple of things. We did a naloxone distribution during Recovery Month, and we also recruited for the Angel program, and then we also worked with SWEAT, which is our drug team, multi-jurisdictional that all these guys are on. We worked with them to really increase in how we flip things to them, because what was happening is if there was an overdose but nobody died, we weren't taking that, we were like, oh, they didn't die. Well, we were flipping that information more regularly into SWEAT so they could figure out where is this dope coming from. So, all right, go down. And this is the one, keep going, right here. This is the one I really love because I'm a big community engagement guy. My post and my troopers, like, I let them decide what we want to do for community engagement. And Trooper Miniak came up with El Concilio. Does anybody know El Concilio? Anybody go there? Yeah. So he speaks Spanish. He does not, but he was willing to go. So he would regularly go there, and it's pretty impactful when you have a child that speaks Spanish, their native language. They also speak English, but he's speaking them in uniform in Spanish. It's pretty impactful. So we did a lot there with them. If you can go down, ALPACT, keep going down. And then here, we did a food drive this year. This was a brainchild of our admin, one of our secretaries. The government shut down. She saw that, man, there's going to be a lot of people in need. So it started off with, let's just start a collection at the post, and it blossomed into the entire district doing a collection drive for ISD backpack buddies, but also for a local pantry. And let's see, does it say how much we did? Go back up. Right there. Nope, stop. We raised $3,700 and 1,500 items collected just at Pawpaw. That wasn't even district-wide. So, and again, that's not Dale and I coming up with these ideas, that's our people. So go down. And then we always adopt families. We do shop with a cop going down, things like that. Keep going. Keep going. Then we also wanted, last thing I'll touch on is we really wanted to connect better with our retirees, our retired community of troopers. I don't know how many people in here are retired, but a lot of times what we were hearing from retirees I'd have coffee with is they're like, you put your whole life into something, and then when you retire, it's like you're not important anymore. So we focused on, first the retirees. We did a retiree shoot for all retirees and a breakfast, and that was a big deal. And then also we did for the K-9, all the way back to 1963, our K-9 teams, we hosted an open house and a reunion for them, and it was really good. So overall, your post obviously had a very good year. If you have any questions, I will gladly cover them at the end, but that's pretty much a summary of our year. So,
Hello everybody, my name is Matt Wolf. I've been with the department, it'll be 30 years come March. I'm the newest Director of Public Safety. My Deputy Director is Brian Mayhew. Brian and I were both Assistant Chiefs on the police side before we were promoted in December. We'll go over some calls for service here. Our officers are responsible for patrolling a city that's basically 36 square miles. And we have about a daytime population of 51,000 citizens and an afternoon population that can total about 70,000 people. For the year of 25, our call volume was down about 4%, so that's good. We like to believe that was a result of some of our proactive enforcement measures. It can scroll down a little bit. Down in all the right areas, we had second year in a row, no homicides, knock on something. And this is a real good stat as well, that our fatal crashes went from 6 to down to 2. So 2024, we had 41,000 calls for service, and in 2025, we have a slight dip. Scroll down. The department fielded a total of 27 complaints last year. And we take in complaints, we label them either internal complaints or external complaints. An internal complaint, like the lieutenant was talking about, could come from us doing a policy review and seeing something that's out of line that we need to investigate further, or a supervisor or another officer lodging a complaint within the organization. An external complaint is a complaint that comes from outside the organization. So in 2025, we logged a total of 27 of those. 19 were external and 8 were internal. We had 11 that were sustained, meaning that they were legitimate complaints and there was some corrective action taken. And we had 11 that were unfounded, and then we had 5 that were invalidated. Let's go down. Policy reviews. So this is something we're really proud of here. Our use of force policy reviews dropped significantly, almost 40% from 2024 to 2025, down to 70. And we've been focusing a lot on de-escalation training with our officers, doing a lot of VR training. As mentioned earlier, we're talking a lot more before going hands-on. You can see that our vehicle pursuits are down. Countywide, the number of stolen vehicles that we were encountering right after COVID spiked up quite a bit. We were getting a lot of pursuits and having a lot of felony stops. Those have quieted down quite a bit. And here's another big thing for us is foot pursuits. Foot pursuits are dangerous. When Dave started, if somebody bailed out of a car, the first thing you did is you run after him. Try to get the bad guy, right? Now we're smarter. Most of us have drone technology, so if somebody wants to bail out of a car and run into the woods, we're not going to chase them. We're going to get a drone up, we're going to get our team there, get the area surrounded, and try to take that person into custody safely. You scroll down. This was something we actually looked at today. I had to ask my deputy director about this. I had a huge increase in the amount of firearms that we took into our property and evidence room. Brian did a deep dive on that, and actually the amount of firearms that we brought in 2025 that were evidentiary, part of a case, were actually down about 25%. But we took in a lot of firearms for what's called safekeeping, or we have a lot of individuals that would turn in firearms for destruction. Say a relative or somebody died, they want to get rid of the gun, they don't want anything to do with it. So that accounts for the increase there. Scroll down a little bit. OWIRS are kind of flat. We've seen this trend over several years. The number of bars, old school bars that are open until 2 in the morning that produce a lot of our drunk drivers, back when I was a newer officer, they're not around anymore. So even a place like Latitude 42 here in Portage, I think, closes at 9:30 or 10 on a Friday night. So we're kind of seeing the downward trend in OWIRS. Here's our other annual statistics. Everything's down just a little bit. Arrests are down 15% year over year. Scroll down a little bit more. Yeah. So our PRs and PRBs. So anytime an officer gets out of their vehicle and makes contact with a business or the general public, we log that as a community relations call. All right. Keep scrolling. Staffing. We are authorized 69 full-time police officers. Because we had some retirements and a little bit we just had another retirement of an officer in January, we are currently down 4 officers. We've got one in background right now. We got another individual who works for Detroit PD, who grew up in Galesburg, that is looking to come back home, so we're looking at him. So hopefully we can get back up to full strength. This is important for us because a few years ago we got a $1 million COPS grant that paid for 8 additional police officers, which is a substantial bump for our department. We can only charge or expense that grant for the bodies that are above 61. So we've got to keep full staff to expense that grant, so it's important. Community outreach, slow down just a little bit. We do a lot. A couple years ago we stood up our first community engagement team. It's called our CERT team, community engagement response team. So anytime we have a neighborhood problem or an issue with a business, we stick these guys on it. They go out, they can take the time to actually deal with the problem instead of a police officer that's running call to call. So they do a lot of our community outreach stuff, our Pig Out with Public Safety. I can't remember how many backpacks did we give away last year?
Over 200.
Gave away over 200 backpacks at that event, and I think we're ordering over 500 possibly this year. They expect a big increase in that. We do the typical stuff, the shop at the cop and the stuff at truck and that type of thing. So the other thing I'd like to talk about and highlight real quick is our Power Engage platform. We stood this up. It'll be 2 years this February actually. And what this is anytime anybody calls for a police officer in the city of Portage, about 6 hours after they make that call, we send them a simple text survey. How'd we do? How was the officer? Do you have any feedback for the officer? That feedback comes back to us. We scroll that positive feedback on boards. For years and years, cops only heard about the bad things and never heard about the good things. So we're trying to change that a little bit. And what we have found, if you scroll down just a little bit here, is, go back just a little bit, sorry. A little bit more, is we're getting about 40% of these surveys back. We used to send out cardboard surveys, send them in the mail, we got less than 5% back. We're getting 40% of these surveys back. As you can see, we're consistently have what they call a citizen positive satisfaction score of right around 90%, which is 90% of these people that are calling for an officer are having a very, very positive experience. The other thing about that for a period of time is we were handing out QR codes on traffic stops. we were asking people that we stopped, and a lot of these people were getting tickets. How did we do? And with that, we were getting a citizen positive satisfaction score of over 94. So, scroll down just a little bit more. Significant case update for the city of Portage. In August of 25, the Kalamazoo County Prosecutor's Office authorized multiple felony charges against Nick Johnson in connection with the disappearance, and now what we know as murder, of Bonifacio Pena. Mr. Pena was last seen with Johnson in South Portage in May of 2018. His body's never been recovered. Johnson, after this homicide, would later go on to kill his parents on Romance Road and dispose of their bodies in the Gordon State Game area. So we were basically out, the investigation, we were exhausted every investigative lead. We were satisfied that Bonifacio is dead, and we submitted a case last November to the prosecutor's office, November of 24, and charges the foundation. Scroll down. Yeah, so a good year for Portage PD. A lot of changes. Still drinking from a fire hose. Learning a lot about the fire service because I'm a cop, and as the public safety director here in Portage, you're in charge of both divisions. So I look forward to getting to know everybody a little bit more and answering any questions that you might have.
Yes, okay, good. Hi everybody, my name is David Boyce, for those who don't know me, and yeah, a lot of the stuff, I'm going to kind of skip a lot of stuff that they covered because a lot of the things parallel, all these agencies do things similar. So I just want to kind of highlight some highlights from 2025, some of the accomplishments and some of the things we're working on. So I'm going to go to the first slide. Again, I think we, and I'm going to go into this a little bit more, but 2025 marked a really significant reduction, and I say it's really a historic reduction in both violent crime and property crime. So, in fact, we are at 10-year lows in property crimes and violent crime. So, really can encourage you to talk about some things behind that. Really strengthen our community partnerships in a lot of ways, which help drive those numbers down. And again, we're always committed to transparency, and we've got a lot of tools to help us be more transparent, including talking at events like this. Go to the next one. Again, these are the numbers. I won't go to each one of those, but you can see, and I say, if you look around the country, crime is down year over year across the country, okay, which is good. But I think it's significant in Kalamazoo is not only are we down from last year, but we're down from 2 years ago, we're down from 5 years ago, and more significantly, we're down from 10 years ago. And if you look at the world between 2025 and 2015, there's a lot of changes that have been made, so I think that's very encouraging. Homicides, we had 7 homicides last year. That's the lowest number we had since 2018. In 2018, we had 6. So again, it's I think 0 is the goal, but I think we're trending in the right direction in a lot of these things. You can go to the next one. One of the things, and I want to highlight this because this I think is very unique to Kalamazoo. We have a weekly street outreach meeting. So what we're doing is how we're driving these crime numbers down is we're being very intentional on focusing on those small number of individuals who actually drive the crime and violence in our community. So what we do is on Tuesdays, we have a crime reduction team with just the law enforcement folks, right? All the divisions within Kalamazoo Public Safety, all of our area law enforcement partners, probation, parole, and we share information on who's driving the crime. Again, a small number of people drive the majority of the crime. We focus on them. But what's special is that's on Tuesday, but on Wednesday, the next day, we have a street outreach meeting. And what that is that is a community meeting with our community violence intervention workers, our group violence intervention workers, peace during war, pastors on patrol, the police athletic league, all the folks that work with us in the trenches, that are community folks. We gather around the table, and it's a one-way information sharing meeting with them. We give them information on who's beefing with who's driving the violence, who is at risk out there. And they go out behind the scenes and they do interventions, mediations. Most every time, what's powerful about these meetings is most every time someone in that room knows the kid we're talking about, and they say, I coached him in football, I coached him in basketball, I know his mom, I know his grandma, I know his dad, and they can go out and talk to those people, and they work behind the scenes to calm things down. What we're bringing back is that informal social control of people you respect from your community saying, hey, knock it off. And then also, hey, the police are watching you, they just told me about you, and you might want to lay low. And I tell you, that has been just phenomenal. So again, that's pretty unique what we do in Kalamazoo. Go to the next one. And you can see these are our total shots fired incidents year over year. When I first became chief, that was our #1 goal. That was back in 2022, was to reduce gun violence. Because it was our #1 problem after COVID. Like many things, it spiked, and So you see year over year, we're continuing to go down year over year. So these aren't just up and down trends, these are steady decreases. Go to the next one. These are our non-fatal shootings and homicides. Orange are non-fatal shootings, blue are homicides, and you can see that trend where we're again steadily going down. And again, on the blue on the homicides, you got to go way back to 2018 to have a lower number. So it's good. We got to keep that going. So next one, please. One of the reasons we're doing that is it's not just outreach, it's not just community partnerships, but we're more effective in helping to solve crimes now. We have a lot of these other agencies use the same technology. One of the things that we wanted to expand, because we know that reality of how you feel in the community, it always kind of, the perception is always lagging behind that, right? You always, just because crime's down over year, people, do they feel safe in our community? And one of the things that we really want to address, we did a pilot with our downtown. We wanted to increase the feeling of safety in our downtown. Even though crime numbers are very low in our downtown, especially violent crime, how do you increase that perception of safety? And one of the things we looked at, I was in Nashville at a conference, and if you go downtown Nashville, every single intersection has a blue light camera. And so we looked at that, and so we did a pilot of 10 of those in our core downtown in the Northside Cultural Business District, just to test this out. And again, it's hopefully to prevent crimes from happening in the first place, but if a crime does happen, we're able to obtain the video and solve those quickly. So that's what they look like. You might see those throughout our downtown. Fusus, I know there's a question on that. We'll talk more about that, but that's an integrated camera system that we use where it's a private-public partnership. So everywhere you go in the community, people have security cameras, right? Businesses is what we do is if you're a Fusus partner, that allows us to access your exterior feeds and your cameras from your businesses. What's huge about that is we already used to get those videos anyways, but what would happen usually, let's say there was a robbery at a convenience store in the parking lot. We would go there and we'd say, hey, can we get your video? And like, well, the manager that knows how to run the system is not here. He won't be back till Monday. So we'd always have a lag of getting that video. Now with this Fusus system, we are able to get that video immediately, and more importantly, we're able to rewind to see what was happening before we got the call. And so what we can do is get that image of that suspect, get it out to the officers in the field that are responding to that call. So now instead of stopping someone with a vague description, officers know exactly who they need to stop, and we stop the right people, and that's again helping us reduce crime. So go to the next one. We'll talk more about that later in the question. This map is kind of where our pilot is right now with those fixed blue light cameras. And we're not trying to hide them. We want everyone to know they're there. So you go to the next one. One of the things, I'll just be really brief on this, and I don't know, we've got a few Kalamazoo residents in here. One of the biggest curses that we've had for many years is our mobile nuisance parties that would really affect our neighborhoods, especially our north side neighborhood. On the weekends, they would be out blocking the streets between 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. We finally got a solution to that, and I think this summer, Wendy can tell you, hopefully it was a little quieter than previous summers because we have a strategy that works now. We got the city commission to pass an ordinance to allow us to tow vehicles after the fact. So you can go on the next one. That's a picture of what they look like. But what we do is we send them a warning letter. If your vehicle is involved in the nuisance party activity, we send you a warning letter and saying, hey, we observed your car on this. We're putting on notice if you are participating in again, your car is subject to being towed. And we don't have to tow it the night of. If we see it again, we can tow it whenever. We can tow it on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We have found that people don't necessarily care about tickets. They don't care about arrests, but they do care if you tow their car. And that really deters that behavior. So of that, we delivered 1,100 warning letters, many in person, some by certified mail. But of those 1,100 warning letters, we only had 58 people that chose to violate that warning and participate, and we had to tow their cars. So I think that's pretty good as, getting the word out. And of that 58, we had several, probably 6 or so, that we towed a second time. So they were really hardcore. They really didn't want to let the tradition die in Kalamazoo. But I think that's a good thing. So, and I'll say this real quick. The best call I had all summer was the chief of Grand Rapids. I can say he's gone now. But the chief of Grand Rapids called me and he said, hey, I don't know what's going on down there in Kalamazoo, but we have all these cars coming up here on the weekends now, and when we stop them, they're like, why are you here? And they say, man, they're really cracking down on this in Kalamazoo. So that was good. So I don't feel bad because your people used to come down here. So go to the next one. And to that point, we really big in data, right? So to that point, if you look at these blue dots, those are where those cars were coming from. So over half the cars that participated in this tearing up our neighborhoods didn't even live in Kalamazoo. They were all over the state. So this has been a big success. So we're going to keep that up. So go to the next one. That's a copy of the warning letter. That's what it looks like. But you can go to the next one. So again, we're putting them on notice. We're not trying to trick them if you violate it. We expanded our homeless outreach team. That's another big challenge that we have, I think, not just in Kalamazoo, but throughout the region. So we added 2 more, so we have 4 full-time officers on that community service team. Lindsay and her team work very close with them. But it's really about building relationships, trying to get them into the services. A lot of these folks, as we talked about today at our meeting, are very service resistant. And it's how we get them in services. We got to build relationships with them to try to get them the help they need. And that's been a huge thing. And I tell you what, this we all know it was a super cold winter. I'm just very, very pleased that we made it through. Knock on wood, not through it yet, but I think we're through the worst of the cold winter, that we didn't have anyone out there dying from exposure in the city of Kalamazoo, but that's because of the great work that Lindsay and her team does at ISK, CST, and all the folks getting out there and making sure people get the services. So you want the next one? One of the last things real quick is Victims Advocate. We started a new role. I think one of the things that we didn't do a very good job of is supporting our crime victims. There's victims assistance at the prosecutor's office, but many times when someone is a victim of a crime, we investigate it, get a warrant, it gets to the prosecutor's office. That could be months, if not longer, down the road before they get help as far as victims assistance. Detectives used to try to help as much as they could, but they're also investigating the case. Now we have 2 full-time dedicated victims advocates to make sure that our crime victims are tapping into resources that are available through them through the state that they weren't tapping into before. And it also assists them in, the criminal justice system is traumatic anyways, going through that. They help them get through the process, be at their court appearances and all that, so that's been a big success. So go to the next one. And then also, I'll just touch on this because Portage started something. I think it copied us, but that's okay. But we don't. What was yours again? Power Engage. We use My 90, and we've been doing this for a few years now. This is a survey tool, right? So to try to see how our officers doing. We also do like they did post calls for service, and then one of the things I want to highlight here is our post traffic stop. So if you get pulled over in the city of Kalamazoo, you get a card with a QR code on it that takes you to our survey tool. And basically it measures procedural justice questions, right? Not whether you're happy you got pulled over or whether you got a ticket or not, because we all know getting pulled over is not a pleasant experience. But how are you treated? If you look at that, the vast majority are very positive or positive. And this after a traffic stop, which is usually not a pleasant encounter. Let's go to the next one. And these are the procedural justice questions that we ask. Were you treated with respect? Were you treated fairly? Did the officer answer your questions? Did they listen to you? Again, it's how you were treated. That's what we measure. And again, you can see it's very positive. If you go to the next one. The thing that I'm very pleased about, because as a chief, I need to know these things, right? The first one I showed you was all races, right? Now we pulled out people of color from that, because we know traditionally some of our minority communities have lower levels of trust with law enforcement. So this is traffic stop data with just people of color. If you look at that, it's almost identical to the overall numbers. Again, vast majority are positive or very positive interactions with that. Go to the next one. And this is the procedural justice question. So again, that tells me as a chief that my officers are treating people the same regardless of their race or background. So which is good that we have that data. So go to the next one. Now I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Chief Green, who is in charge of professional standards, to talk about the complaint process, because prior to hearing me talk, and we'll get Victor up here, and this is his wheelhouse. All right, thanks, Chief Green.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Under the Office of Professional Standards, anyone who wants to file a complaint with one of our officers, we would take the complaint, whether it's by in person, telephone, email, whatever the case may be. And as I think it was Lieutenant Rusty spoke about the different levels in which a complaint comes in. So when we receive the complaint, we'll assign it to our inspector, Chuck Mason, and then we do a thorough investigation. So the investigation can look at interviewing. We definitely would most likely interview the officer, any witnesses, review body camera, review the car camera, whatever the case may be. And then after we can do a thorough investigation, we do one of the findings. Rusty already spoke a lot about that. Once the findings have been determined, we make the recommendation, we send them to the chief. The chief signs off and make the final determination on the findings. And then we will send a letter detailing what our findings are. Where you need in Kalamazoo, we have what's called a Citizens Review Board. So if they do not, this person who made the complaint against the officer or officers do not agree with the findings, they can take it to the Citizens Review Board. They can take it to the review board if it comes back exonerated, unfounded, and I think that's the only ones that we have taken on. So the Citizens Review Board meets every second Tuesday of the month, and we go over the transparency page of all our current events, all the current complaints for the year. We're in the process of closing out 2025. We're going to do our annual Office of Professional Standards report that goes into detail of all the complaints. But in 2025, we had 34 complaints that came through. Next slide.
And I'll touch on that. Of the 34 complaints, we are an agency that handles on average 400 calls for service per day and over 100,000 calls for service a year. So I mean that's just to put it in perspective, the amount of complaints versus the amount of citizen contacts. Those are even more contacts than that. So.
Okay. So this gives you all the calls. Instead of 32 calls. So this is 2020 we had 38 citizens complaints, and 2022 we had 51. And 2024 and then 2025, I don't know why the huge difference, but some allegations, we take them per allegation. We may have the person that comes in, if Josh made a complaint against someone in the department, he may have 3 allegations that's aligned to that one complaint. So we count each one of those as an allegation for a complaint. Next slide, if there's one more left. And so the citizens complaint, again, we have a conclusion of how the outcome may be. 2024 is in purple, 2025 is in orange. We have one case that actually it says open, that it's really closed now. When we did this, it's closed out, and it was closed out as exonerated. We have 3 people that we withdrew, so they went through it. And oftentimes if someone makes a complaint against us, they want to come in and see the information, the video. We're happy to show it to them. And they say, you know what, that's not what occurred, that's not what I saw, so I'm going to withdraw the complaint. So we honor that. This conduct other is unique. When we look into the investigation, and I use this as an example, let's say that the officer forgot to activate their body camera during the conversation with the citizen. But that's misconduct of it. The citizen may have filed an allegation against the officer, but we found another violation, so that's what we get misconduct of it. And sustained, not sustained, exonerated, and unfounded. Next slide. There's.
Do you want to touch on the 32 complaints? How many of those were repeat? The same.
Oh yes. So the chief asked me of the 32 complaints, how many will repeat? We have 2 citizens. Of those 32 complaints, they count for 8 of them. But it's constant repeats, and this is every single year of a new complaint that comes in. So we do get repeat citizens' complaints. And I can honestly say that of all those complaints that came in, majority of them were either exonerated or unfounded with the conclusion. We will be coming out with our complete use of force report, which will go before our Citizens Review Board, and also go on our transparency page. We're still finalizing it from 2025. We got a couple more reports that we have to go through. One other thing, if you'd like, please go to our transparency page, look under our PCRs for our complaints, and we will show all our previous complaints and the ones that we have open right now in 2026.
Yeah, if you just put in your Google search bar, Kalamazoo transparency,
Right there.
it'll take right there.
Yep. If you do the QR code, that will take you.
Thank you to our presenters. We will move into a Q&A portion. All of our questions have been collected during the registration process, so if you registered for this event, you've had an opportunity to share questions. We're a small enough group where if there were any questions that don't make it into today's open discussion, we will have time for a meet and greet mingle afterwards where you can ask some of those questions individually. The first question, yeah, if you guys want to take that down. For Chief Wolf, as the newest chief of Portage Public Safety, what are your priorities for your first year in this role, and what changes do you expect to implement?
Well, what's unique about our department is my predecessor left us in a really good condition. We accomplished a lot over the last few years, and I was honored to serve as an assistant chief under him. So right now, what we're working on is trying to get our leadership team in place. Tomorrow morning, the deputy director and I are going to be interviewing 3 lieutenants who will need to become assistant chiefs. So once we get our leadership team in place, and once we get promoted these lieutenants to assistant chiefs, we've got to promote some sergeants to lieutenants and so on down the line. Once the leadership team is in place, we plan on doing a SWOT analysis, which is an acronym: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and basically take a look at where we are as a department. It's a different version of strategic planning. We last did this in 2012 and it was very effective at that point, so I plan on doing that here in the near future. One of the objectives that I conveyed to the hiring panel when I was interviewed for this position is, in my opinion, we're low on school resource officers. We have 8,600 Portage Public School students spread out over 8 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, a community high, and 2 Class A high schools. And we have 2 SROs, so we'd like to partner with the new superintendent, Johnny Edwards, and try to take a look at building that back up to where we can have at least 1 SRO in our middle school, or responsible for our middle schools, and ideally all 3 of them. The other thing we'd like to do is continue to diversify our workforce. In the last 3 years, we've hired our first Spanish-speaking officers. We actually have 3 Spanish-speaking officers now. So we want our police department to look like our community.
For each panelist, and you're all of you, what is your department's policy regarding cooperation or collaboration with ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement?
He handed me the microphone, you know what's that? I don't know if it's just me or is it freezing in here, okay? So I think it's freezing in here. But anyways, so regarding ICE, we, again, can refer to our transparency page. Our policy regarding immigration enforcement is our policy 414. That is on our transparency page. Our officers, per our policy, are forbidden to ask anyone that they are taking a complaint from, whether they're a citizen or not. We don't want to discourage people from calling and reporting crimes. We know that the immigrant community, many of the time, they're victims of crimes committed by other people in their community, and we don't want to discourage them from reporting those crimes. So we are forbidden to ask that, whether they're a citizen or not. So we have no authority over immigration. However, if we need to, we do cooperate with ICE. There is a need to remove dangerous people from our community, but the only time we would intervene in that would be if we arrest someone for a crime, we lodge them in Sheriff Fuller's jail, and if there's a question about their citizenship, then that would be handled in the jail and detention facility. But that would not, they would not be asset unless we had arrested them for a criminal offense, and I think that's similar how you guys handle that as well. So, but I'll let you speak on that.
I would offer that we all have pretty much the same policy in place.
Yeah, our policy is exactly, for MSP is exactly the same. I'll just talk about, it's exactly the same. We were forbidden to ask anything like that. We do, okay. You can't hear me?
Well, you're on recording, remember, so.
Oh, I'm on recording. Yeah, we're forbidden to do ask that. We do cooperate if asked. The other thing that we do is we also have a victim advocate now, and she's been trained in that if someone is a victim of a crime that is have an immigration status of some kind, she helps them through the process of becoming, receiving protection under Victim Rights Act.
Being the sheriff, we have just pretty much exactly the same thing. We work with
ICE under certain conditions, but we work with any agency under certain conditions. So it's kind of funny that we have to think about ICE different than other police agencies just because of what's happening in the world today. But bottom line is, we have no 287G agreement with the federal government to handle any ICE complaints, any ICE investigations, or actually to hold people at the jail without a judicial warrant. Back in 2017, we created a written directive, what we call our policies, at the sheriff's office to make sure that we told ICE if somebody's in our jail, you recognize that you want to pick them up, you need a judicial warrant to get them. And so that's worked very good for us. But here in Kalamazoo, we don't have a whole facility designated with ICE like surrounding counties do. So we generally don't see people brought in by ICE. If we see somebody that's wanted by ICE, it's brought in by somebody that these agencies, or my agency, has arrested for another crime. And then once ICE finds out that they are in our facility, which we do not call them, we do not alert them to that unless there is a judicial warrant for that person, then they come and tell us that they would like a hold placed on that person. The law requires that we have a reasonable amount of time to have people picked up by ICE once we're done with them at the sheriff's office. And we have worked with ICE since 2017, made it clear to them that they have a 2-hour window once we are done with them. And they've cooperated almost every single time. And it's very seldom, in fact, it's been a few years since we actually had to release somebody who was in on a misdemeanor. They did not go get a warrant for this person, and that person was released back into the community when they were done with their jail time. So it's pretty common they do come. The other thing is you've got to be careful about when we say working with ICE. I'll remind everybody, we do have a good connection here in Southwest Michigan with the director of ICE, who will answer our questions if we call because we're hearing in the community. Somebody said, I know ICE was there, I saw ICE, they took somebody. We will contact them and they will do the checking for us. It's not just ICE that's out here doing some of these activities. It's ICE, it's Homeland Security, it is Border Patrol, and not all of them work for the local same people. They're all under the same umbrella, but they all have different local bosses. And so, fortunately, we can call the ICE director at Southwest Michigan, say, here's what's happening, is this you, is this somebody that you know, can you help us figure out what's going on? And they've been very cooperative. So, hopefully that will continue.
The Extreme Risk Protection Order law, ERBO, in Michigan went into effect on February 13th, 2024. This law allows civil courts to issue temporary orders preventing individuals at risk of harming themselves or others from possessing firearms. To any of the panelists, do you have any data on the use of ERBOs in your jurisdiction and how commonly are they used?
So if you guys don't mind, I'll go on that. I'm very fortunate to serve on the governor's gun violence task force, and that was part of our task was to deep dive into the law with ERBOs and help explain it to the communities. We're finding across the state of Michigan they're not being utilized as much as we thought they would, and we believe that that might be an educational piece. And so the task force that I'm talking about, we've been extended through this year, and our task is to find ways that we can get that out into the community to help people understand. We know of cases here in this county where, when it was related to a suicide, that when we talk to family members after the suicide, they wish they knew that there was an ERBO opportunity, and they believe they would have taken that opportunity. So we know it's really important. This county, I believe right now that we have 5 active in the entire county, and so they're not very commonly used. We're trying to educate the communities more, and we do believe they'll be more effective the more people can learn about it.
Since 2024, we've only had 1, and it wasn't last year, and that was actually in Marion County. We've had 2 that we started in 2025, but again, it was resolved because working with the family and the person themselves. They voluntarily gave up their firearms, and we didn't have to do the before.
Yeah, we've had a handful in the city. I think part of that, I think they can all, everyone can contest to the fact that it wasn't rolled out very well. We were kind of, I don't think the courts were prepared, the judges weren't prepared, and more importantly, I don't think the judges were properly informed of the law. And we've had some ERPOs that were denied by judges that, you know, looked into that should have been approved. So I think that's hopefully going to be part of this ongoing education piece, because it is a tool that we should use more. But I think we have to get the word out not only to the community, but to our own law enforcement officials as well, including judges.
Is that something your victim advocates will help apply for?
Yes, yeah, that's something that they can at least notify the families, especially because of the violent crime in custody and deal with them in custody.
No, just like, we thought we were going to deal with it a lot more than we have. I believe we had 2 last year and maybe 1 in 2024. So, sticking with our comments.
This next question is a little bit of what you guys are doing here tonight. But research suggests that collaboration with communities can greatly extend police effectiveness. It didn't cite the research, but it's a good question. Which partnerships with other agencies or community partners have proved to be the most valuable this year, and why?
I think I touched on that. I think that street outreach, community violence intervention team, I think has been the most effective tool we've had in a long time. And we finally have some great partners who are willing to serve with us and you know, willing to be seen in public with us, which, you know, took a while to get over the hump, you know, that people that want to be associated with law enforcement. We're getting over that long. I think that's been a great thing.
Yeah, just echo what I mentioned earlier about our new CERT team. This has been kind of a game changer for us. They have a sergeant and 3 police officers that anytime we have a neighborhood issue that pops up or a community event, the farmers market that's being built out here every Sunday, we would have a police presence there, and we just want to continue to expand that going into 2026.
With the sheriff's office, those townships I was talking about and the schools, those connections have really expanded. Law enforcement connections throughout the community. We have 5 schools, and that's where I would say that those deputies that are assigned to those schools have been a heavy lift in our connections with the communities, as well as in Oshkosh. Oshkosh contracts for one of our deputies specifically for community outreach. So when I talked about 47,000 calls for service at the sheriff's office, there was a significant increase in the numbers of calls we're taking because of that outreach.
And I would say ISK, working both counties, we're given a unique kind of perspective on things. And if you went to the recent ISK breakfast last end of the year, it's very unique in that you don't have something like ISK in many counties. And so our troopers, when they're working in Van Buren and they have someone that's in crisis or needs help or whatever, it's a whole different process to get that person help than it is in Kalamazoo. So for us personally, that's probably the biggest impact. My troopers love having that ability. So Shelley.
I didn't pay him for that.
She didn't pay.
This next question is actually something that you guys all attended to during your presentations, and it circles back to the citizen complaint process. You guys answer the question in describing the procedure for accepting and reviewing and analyzing these complaints. But one thing I'm hoping that you guys can share to kind of add to this question is how do citizens do it? How do they file a complaint? Where do they do it? Is that something that varies by agency? Is there a common place to do it?
I think all the agencies give the citizenry ample avenues to file a complaint. I know the Sheriff's Department, KDPS, and Portage are all accredited through MEDIAC, and that requires us to field any and all complaints, even anonymous complaints. So those can come in a variety of ways. People can call in, they can email us. We have several different portals within our website. The My90 program that KDPS has, our Engage program, people can anytime we get any negative feedback whatsoever from that, it goes into an inbox. And in my former position, I would look at that call for service and look at whether or not there was any merit to the complaint. So as an accredited agency, we all pretty much have the same marching orders when it comes to complaints. That is, we'll take a look at anything.
And I would say even if we have one citizen that makes 8 complaints, we look at all 8 of those complaints equally. And which is a lot of work, but we don't say, this person made 6 other complaints, so it's probably BS, we're gonna file. No, we investigate just like it was our first complaint of the year, which is a lot of work, but it's important to do that.
Pretty much the same thing, and at the sheriff's office, we are part of the county umbrella, and the county also will receive some of those complaints and pass them on to us, so there's multiple ways.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same for us. The only thing I do want to highlight, I spoke about it earlier, it's so much more than just citizen complaints and things like that. Like all these agencies also, like body cams and more so body cams, but in-car cameras have totally changed the game. Because we don't sit around and just wait for citizen complaints. Like at the state police, we do, the sergeants have to review so many videos of their troopers per month. And then if there's any sort of action, whether, whatever it is, a blue team gets reported, which is our reporting mechanism, and Lieutenant Haynes has to watch that video. And if it could be as simple as, they didn't do anything wrong with that citizen, but hey, you weren't wearing your seatbelt, you weren't, like we're expecting all of us a very high level out of our officers, troopers, and deputies. But I will say this, we are seeing a lot of good work. We think when body cams and cameras first came out, all the officers were nervous, like, oh, Big Brother watching. They welcome those cameras now because they are out here doing great work. And they know, and some of it's just a learning that we want. So Lieutenant Haynes will review something, and they didn't do anything wrong, but hey, do you think you could have done this better? There's a lot of that goes on. So with the complaint process, it's not just that, it's a lot of internal review as well.
How many, and you might not have the answer to this in this moment, but how many hours of continued education have your officers engaged in the past year? And if you don't have a specific number of hours, perhaps what are your training priorities, or what areas or topics do you train your officers on each year?
You start.
Well, you're going to be crazy numbers because you got fire too. But so there's MPOLS requirements, which are the required hours every year. I mean, I won't even pretend like I know what they are, but it's those standard sets that we do firearms training 4 times a year, defensive tactics 4 times a year now, and then first aid twice a year, I think. It's with it. And those are the core ones. But then we also have small squad tactics, which is like riot training, all these things. And then they also have to, on part of their performance appraisal every year, is aside from required courses, they have to get so many CEUs of something else, whether it be victim advocacy, forensic interview, whatever it is. So I don't know the number, but out of the post, we do a lot of training. So.
The only way I know this number is because I checked my training division when I saw that question, because otherwise, yes, we have police, fire, and EMS, we have to train 3 disciplines, so that's a lot of training. The minimum training that you have to have on the police side is 24 hours. And so we obviously meet those requirements for additional, we have a minimum of 4 hours of fire and 4 hours of EMS. That's the minimum, but most of our folks are trained between 50 and 100 hours per year per officer. So it's a lot of training.
I did the same thing after some question I asked the training sergeant. So he believes we're close to 2,500 hours for 2025. So.
And Sheriff's Office, it's a minimum of 40 hours. Everybody gets at least 40 hours. And then there are specialties like training officers get more, detectives get more in different fields. The accident crash investigators, they get more hours. So it's a minimum of 40, but it could be 50, 60.
While we're on training, I don't have a written down, but since we're already talking about training, can you tell us how much training goes around cultural competency, antibodies training, de-escalation training? Do you have those numbers?
Can you repeat that question in the
So,
mic?
Yes, I'll repeat the question for her. She's looking for anti-bias and maybe DEI type trainings that you're talking about, really. So the sheriff's office and the county went into a program, and I agreed that we would participate in it. There are monthly trainings that come out to cover all of these aspects that we were just asked about, that everyone in the sheriff's office has to go through. And it comes to their computer, they have to do a review, and then they have to, submit a couple question answers. But we do that on a monthly basis.
And when we do citywide training, Sue and Chief Green can touch on that, but through our DNI office for the city, they do citywide, not just public safety, but all departments in the city with that training. And then we also do training in-house for just public safety, so Chief Green, if there's anything else you want to touch on that? Or?
And also when officers get through our training program, they do additional in-service training, especially knowing the culture of Kalamazoo. That's the title of the training, learning who's people and everyone in Kalamazoo.
And that must be, I believe it's 4 hours a year on cultural competency, and the de-escalation is a combination because it's during defensive tactics that we do 4 times a year now. That's what they're going to, so it's no longer just learning the techniques, it's more how to de-escalate, and then there's also, they call it ICAT, I don't even know what that stands for. I can't remember. Is it?
Internet crime against
No, it's called ICAT, but it's all de-escalation. And we do that, and that is a 4-hour class that they get every year as well. So.
And something new that we started just fairly recently is we recognize that our officers are new officers. We used to train them, and it takes a year to train our new officers between police, fire, and EMS, so they're in training for a whole year. They go to an advanced academy, field training, and literally it's a year between the day we hire them and they hit the street. We used to just send them on the street when they're done with the training. Now, before we send them to training, they've completed everything, but before we push them out on the road, they have to do 2 weeks with our community policing unit. So they have to ride with our community policing unit for 2 whole weeks to see how we want them to police the community. And they also get to meet a lot of folks for our community policing unit and make connections that they wouldn't have otherwise. I think that's been a big benefit too.
The audience that's here tonight that commented on Portage Public Safety's statistics regarding juvenile arrests. Don't worry, you don't have to take the mic yet. They noted that there was an increase in these juvenile arrests. And the question asks, what were the arrests for mostly? What is the data for other agencies? Is mental health tracked at all for some of these juveniles?
Yeah, so it looks like we had a 10% increase juvenile arrests from 161 to 146. One thing I would stress when you hear that number is, I would say that less than 10% of that number actually were physically arrested and taken out to the juvenile home. Anytime we investigate a juvenile crime, if it's not a serious crime, if it's not a violent crime, 99% of the time, those individuals are taken back to their family, released to the custody of a parent or guardian. Most of these are usually low-level incidents. It could be anything from possession of marijuana to MDP. A lot of these incidents for us emanate from the schools, because we have school officers there, so the incidents that occur at the school. But overall, I see that it looks like there's a 10% spike, but I would say the number of juveniles we actually lodged at the juvenile home, we actually had somebody today, had an unusual case where we had a 13-year-old with a gun, and we have seen on our Facebook page. That's very unusual for us in Middle Meadows. So that child went to the juvenile home. But his accomplice, who also ran from us, that was only in possession of marijuana, the juvenile home was not taking that kid. That kid's going back to their parent or guardian, and that's what happened with this child.
Comment on juvenile arrests or interactions?
Well, I know we track them, but I don't have the numbers here, but similarly, very rarely, I would even suspect maybe one, if at all, I got lodged at the juvenile home this year in 2025 for us.
We track it also, but unfortunately I don't have that number. It's not very many actual physical arrests taken to the juvenile facility. Much like anybody here, it's difficult to get somebody into the juvenile facility because of their staffing. And we work closely with the juvenile facility to make sure that only people that really need to be in the facility are there, and preferably they're released to their parents or family members.
And I think that, and I'm the one who asked the question, I work for a child serving agency, and we work with youth that have mental health challenges. And we do know from the work that our youth that we're serving have quite a few interactions with law enforcement, whether they're being arrested or not. But wanting to know, I know that a lot of them aren't arrested, but how are you tracking mental health for the juveniles, even though you're not arresting them, and are you doing any type of diversion programs or connecting them with other community resources?
Yeah, you know, in Portage, anytime we investigate. What's that?
No.
Lindsay's
Go
jumping.
ahead.
Yeah, anytime we take any type of call, whether it's an adult or juvenile, and there's a mental health aspect to it, our officers are required to label that call behavioral health, BH code. And those get reviewed every week, and we liaison with ISK to get these individuals the services they need. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to explain some of that. So
Introduce yourself.
sorry, I'm Lindsay O'Neill, I'm the Director of Justice Services with ISK. So my whole job is to work with these guys and kind of bring together the behavioral health systems. We have law enforcement as well as the rest of the justice system. What I can tell you is through our behavioral health codes, I just looked at this number today. So at the end of a call, officers are required to put a disposition at the end of the call. We added age probably in 21, 22. Really trying to understand, we knew anecdotally that officers were responding to a lot of behavioral health calls, but we didn't know those numbers, that data wasn't collected. Right now I can tell you that of the 3,300 and something calls that we took in, behavioral health referrals that we took in 25, only 6% were identified as juveniles. For me, that may be accurate, but also means we have a little bit more work to do on training and identification of mental health needs, especially in our juvenile population. Thanks, guys. Really hard to stay quiet.
All right, in the interest of time, we have one more. You guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, given the number of community outreach events, like this evening's event, and connections that you guys have built, what evidence suggests these efforts are improving outcomes or relationships? Chief, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, no matter what we do at public safety, and first day I started with my staff says, we have to show, number one, that we're effective in our core mission, which is keeping our community safe. We can do all the outreach programs in the world, we can do all the youth programs, all these things, but at the end of the day, our citizens don't feel safe and crime keeps going up, and we really got to look at what we're doing. So what we think we've struck the balance between outreach and enforcement. You can't just do enforcement, you can't just do outreach. But what we do is we do outreach, but it's coordinated with enforcement. And when those two things coordinate, that's where you're seeing the difference. And we look at our statistics. We're a data-driven organization. Every week when we meet with senior staff, the first thing we do is look at our crime stats. Are we going up in this category, down? Where are we at? What interventions need to be done? What things we need to put in place? And to me, I think we're strengthening our relationships because we're building trust, and the crime numbers are going down. And I think that kind of validates the work we're doing. It is making a difference, and it's keeping our community safe, and it's improving the trust and relationships in our community. So really, we just look at the crime numbers. If that's working, and our complaints are down, I think that's a key indicator.
And from our perspective, MSP's perspective, I'm a big believer in the founding principles of policing. It was never meant to be law enforcement. It was meant to be policing. We can't be effective without the community because the community allows us to police. And like Chief Boyson was saying, like that's how they've been effective. Is that community are there who talk about what's going on. They're the ones we need help with. So that's and again, the other important thing is that it's not like a community policing unit's great, or hey, I have a community policing officer or whatever. That's great. But it's really got to be all my troopers bought in out here delivering service. And that's what we've really focused on at the state police is that service aspect of, we can write tickets all day long, but what is our goal? Change behavior, make people safer. And you've heard me say it if you've ever come to one, we all in this room want the same outcome. We just want to raise our families in a safe, healthy environment. We want them to prosper. That's all we want. So that's what we all want.
The only thing I would add is that I've been around the country teaching or working with chiefs and sheriffs from all over the place. Whenever I describe how lucky I am, that I'm the luckiest sheriff in the state of Michigan, because I've got these guys as partners and their teams. There's a lot of trust in us, and if there's a situation in the world of Kalamazoo County business, our police, and Rusty's team finds out about it, and it's something that we're involved in, they come to us. That doesn't happen everywhere. You know, this is a pretty unique community, and while I think I'm bragging about that right now, I also know that everyone up here is willing to grow even better or to find out even more what we can do to help our community.
Yeah, we all have our own jurisdictions, but we work very collaboratively together. We had, unfortunately, an overdose death, a couple overdose deaths last weekend. We worked with our partners at the state police and SWAT to get that resolved. Earlier today, in one of our apartment complexes, we assisted KDS with a search warrant to locate a shooting suspect. So we work very collaboratively together. There is no one-size-fits-all policing. The expectations that I have as a police chief in order to very different than Dave's, but when it all comes down to it, we work very, very well together.
Any final thoughts or comments?
Are we going to take some questions?
Yeah. As we come to a close, I want to thank everyone who participated tonight. Most importantly, our presenters who took time this evening. To our organizers and community partners, thank you so much for taking the time this evening. These conversations aren't always easy, but they are necessary. Transparency and trust are built through continued engagement and accountability and a willingness to learn. We have reserved some time for a meet and greet mingle. Please feel welcome to introduce yourself to any of the panelists tonight. Ask many questions that you might have remaining and thank them for their service to our community. If you still have any lingering questions after today's event, we do still have some questions that were submitted through registration that weren't asked in the interest of time. But we will, ALPACT and CCJT will ensure that appropriate follow-up is had. If you have any interest in joining the advocates and leaders for police and community trust, please be sure to visit our Facebook page for registration details. Thank you again for being here and for showing up for your community. Have a safe and good evening.